This program is funded by the European Union.
To our audience worldwide, good evening and welcome to Gcci Business Matters. I am Malik M. Jallo. If you have been following our program, in the past session, we have had exceptional individuals, both from the private and public sectors, discussing important issues pertaining to the economy. And one of the issues that we could not stop talking about, or we could not exclude in all our discussion, is taxes. Taxes on the left, taxes on the right, taxes at the center of the conversation. Besides that, we have also looked at the composition of the Gambia's domestic production, that is the GDP, the national output. And when we look at the composition, we have agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, which sometimes could be interchangeable with industry. And we have seen the biggest contribution of the GDP is tourism, which is part of the service sector, agriculture, and now recently construction. But manufacturing so far is not taking center stage, or is not taking the focus that we think it should take. Today in this discussion, we have two gentlemen here that will help us understand this. On my left, we have the Director of Revenue and Tax Policy from the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Alaji Jallo. And on my right, we have Mr. Farimang, who is representing the Manufacturing Association, also a board member of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce. Gentlemen, welcome to Gcci Business Matters.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great. So, Mr. Jallo, we start with you. The Directorate of Revenue and Tax Policy. How did it come about? What is the mandate of this directorate?
Thank you very much, Malik, for having me. Good evening, viewers. This Directorate of Revenue and Tax Policy came to being as a result of the Gambia's quest to increase domestic resource mobilization. And when you talk about domestic resource mobilization, you talk about policy and operations. Operations, that's GRA, or administration, and then policy is the Ministry of Finance. So for the longest time, there has been a disconnect between, administration, tax administration, and tax policy. And what we have seen is that in the structure of the tax, you see the low performance of resource mobilization or tax to GDP ratio, because there has not been a square focus in terms of addressing policies challenges in the tax ecosystem. So to address these structural change issues in the tax system, the ministry consider it prudent, like a global best practice in all countries, where there is a Ministry of Finance and there's a revenue administration. There need to be a policy arm to supervise and coordinate with the tax administration, but also being an interlocutor between government in terms of designing tax policy and also the private sector or the stakeholders. For the longest time, this was missing. And I think that's one of the reasons why this department or directorate was set up, is to become an interface between government and stakeholders. Policy consultation, stakeholder engagement, and communicating government policy in terms of taxes. So the other thing is that the directorate will be responsible, or is responsible, for designing tax policy, formulating tax policy, but also looking at understanding the structure of the tax ecosystem in the Gambia and see what are the issues and how we can leverage on the expertise of our development partners to increase the efficiency of our tax policy, but also look at what challenges the private sector is going through and see how tax policies can be framed to address those kind of issues.
You have mentioned
generally, these are the issues that the directorate is mandated to do, and then we have started working in that direction.
Thank you. I think that is a very comprehensive introduction and an explanation of the mandate given to the Directorate of Tax and Revenue and Tax Policy. You have mentioned key issues. You have mentioned efficiency of the tax system. You have mentioned the tax structure. You have mentioned the private sector, the impact that is going to have. I think those are very important points which we will deliberate as the conversation goes on. I will allow Mr. Farimang to give us what the Association of Manufacturers. What is the overall goal? What is the overall objective? What brings it about?
Okay, greetings, viewers. Thank you very much for having me here. Good evening, Mr. Jallo. First of all, I'm not part of the board of, GCCI.
Okay, I take that back.
Yes, so I am actually representing, the Association of Gambian Manufacturers as their president. Okay. Newly elected, last week. Okay. And also, I am part of the, or we are part of the National Business Council along with GCCI. Okay. So probably that's
Thank you for that correction.
Yes. All right. So, like I said, AGM, the Association of Gambian Manufacturers, is established in 2005 by two prominent household name in manufacturing sector, that is Alaji Sankun Silla and Mokhtara Holding. So our principal goal is to advocate and promote, our AGM, in terms of, having, a proper environment, for us to operate. So that is our main goal, actually.
Thank you. Thank you both for that introduction. I'll go back to you, Mr. Farima. Manufacturing in this country, if you just step out and you talk to certain people, they will tell you we are not producing anything. And they may not be wrong if you look at the statistical numbers in terms of import volumes year on year, and you look at export volumes year on year. So why is that so? Given that you have this association, what progress have you made in terms of, steering this industry, stimulating it? And if I may add, what challenges do you face in the process? Technically speaking, why is the performance of this sector as a contributor to GDP so insignificant compared to major sector, especially construction recently?
Well, thank you for that question. Number one, Gambia is more driven into import and export of goods. So, and also a lot of services, that we encounter in our economy. So industries has declined, you are rightly said, but again, it's due to so many factors. The factors of taxation, the factors of, having the raw materials, in certain product that, in our daily use, So, for example, if you want to produce, let's say, steel, for example, you have to get the raw material from outside. If you want to produce, PVCs, which are, for example, you just mentioned, in the construction department, you have to get all those raw materials outside. So, again, these are some of the factors that really hindering, the sector. And also, there is a major issue of, skilled labor. And in the Gambia here, you tend to have, lot of issues, when you invest, in a factory to get, the right skills. So that one also is a big, issue in our industry. And also factories are, what do you call it, a big, investment, for an investor. So in terms of, access to finance, for individual Gambians is also in a big issue. Then also you have the issue of, access to land. Sometimes when you come, you have to put some more part of your capital into land. So that also is another big issue in terms of, venturing in that sector as well.
You have mentioned a lot of factors.
Yeah.
But I am more interested in taxes.
Yes.
Since we have the Director of Revenue and Tax Policy here, what aspect of taxation do you think is making it difficult for you to operate?
Well, it's good, our gentleman, right friend gentleman is here. In Gambia here, we consider that, we are the most tax-based, economy in the whole sub-region. You will notice that, we have almost, 22 different type of taxes. And just recently, there is a new tax that comes in That's what we call, the new stamp exercise duty stamp. So that alone, is another hindrance, and it will very soon, be in play. I think, this month or next month, 1st of, April, it will come to effect. And again, it will be a big burden, in our economy, in our operation, rather. So taxation, is a big issue. So I'm glad,
does it discourage investment? Does it increase production costs in terms of impact it has on profitability? What exactly, which of the points? Because I'm going to shift the conversation to Mr. Jallo, but before I do, I want to give you a little bit more to say.
Yes, certainly. Obviously, any taxes are definitely, there for the economy to grow. Government need those taxes, to create, the environment for us to play, the right, infrastructures, the energy that, we might use and so on, But again, too much of those taxes obviously will be carried, to the end product, price. So we are, involved in the recovery, like everybody around the globe and even internally, from COVID and so on. So definitely, when you are investing, and industrialization or manufacturing is a long-term process in terms of investment and recovering your investment. So obviously, if the taxes are there without a proper consultation, with our industry, obviously, it impacts, on the price.
Put a point there. So I will come to Mr. Jallo. I know you want to get to the point of answering these things. But before we do that, first, I want you to tell us or help us understand what major changes has taken place in the tax system or structure over the years. Then you have the opportunity to tackle some of the things that Mr. Fariman has raised regarding their sector.
Thank you very much, Malik. I think part of the issues that I would discuss for the major changes in our tax structure would answer to his claim that we are the most taxed. But before I do that, let me just give a context. Currently, if you look at the sub-region, the corporate income tax rate in the sub-region, the highest is 35, the lowest is 25%. And Gambia is sitting at 27. So you can imagine, and this used to be 30% in 2018. Government took a deliberate decision to reduce this to 27 by 3 percentage points, just so we give you, private players the latitude and the breathing space for some additional cash flow in terms of their income. The second thing is that we also look at so many other areas, one of which is the personal income tax bracket. This used to be the highest the highest rate used to be 30%. We reduced this to 25. That's the highest. And in the sub-region, you have countries that are still charging the highest top rate at 35%. Now you also go to the tax on turnover. This used to be like 1.5% on audited accounts. Now this is 1%, and 2.5% on unaudited. This is now 2%. So you can imagine the kind of reforms we have done to make sure that the tax burden on operators in the economy is brought to the barest minimum to make sure that we promote growth as well as, open and unlock the economy. So now coming to the high level of taxation, I believe the problem of manufacturing in this country is not taxes. There are more structural issues to manufacturing than taxes, one of which is logistic. If you have a container of raw materials coming to Banjul, you spend so much to transport it to Banjul because of a whole lot of things that we are not at liberty to discuss because we don't have the time. The second thing is that the number of taxes applicable. People go around saying we have 20 taxes. We don't have that. We have even less than 5 major taxes. You have VAT, corporate income tax, personal income tax, rental income tax. Very few. Import duty and excise. These are the taxes. The rest, they are just levies and fees that might not even be administered by co-government. These are agencies as part of their regulatory framework. They have to administer those levies. And for for raw materials, if you look at the duty bracket, they are taxed the lowest at 5%. And this is a common practice in the ECOWAS region. It's part of the common external tariff of ECOWAS. So the lowest you can charge on any raw material is at 5%, when the highest duty rate goes as much as 35% for other commodities. But because manufacturing is expected to fuel the economy, any input to manufacturing is considered as some sort of capital good or an input to production. So the lowest tax as possible would fuel and unlock that growth. So now coming to the issue that we just discussed about challenges in the manufacturing. I think logistic would be one. You have acquisition of land, which is also another one. But skilled labor, you don't have enough skilled labor to do or operationalize some of the machineries that manufacturers are bringing. So this, for me, taxes when it comes to the cost of production, it's secondary to the problem. There are more structural issues around manufacturing and their costs than the taxes that people are complaining about. And maybe let me conclude on this point. The issue of the digital tax stamp that we are talking about here on manufacturers, this is not any new thing. This is just the same excise tax that is applicable on all excisable goods. So it's not a new thing. This was there in the law and people were paying it, and the only change now is that we are digitalizing it. And this is good for you manufacturers for two reasons. One, it gives you fair level competition against smuggling and counterfeiting. Fair competition. Today, if you are manufacturing a bottle of water and there is a digital stamp attached to it, any consumer should be able to scan, because this digital tax stamp comes with a QR code or a hologram that I can scan and verify that this is an authentic product coming from Mr. Fariman. And now let's assume somebody goes to Senegal and smuggles something to bring in that same bottle of water. He have not paid taxes, he have not paid anything. You paid all the taxes and you are competing in the market. Now tell me, is the tax stamp advantageous to you as a manufacturer or disadvantageous to you?
Mr. Fariman, you may respond.
Very good. So, on this new digital stamp, like what he said, it has its advantages.
Yes.
And I agree, 100%. Now, where the problem that we are facing, as I said, manufacturing involve a lot of investment in the initial stage. So imagine, what we discover from this new digital exercise tax is it has been initiated in 2023, and a study tour was conducted, to Ghana, bigger economy. So GRA, Ministry of Finance and Trade went there to do a study. So discovered that, it took 5 years for Ghana to implement such tax. Like he said, it was in the law, we don't disagree, and it's been happening. But now they digitalize it. So what we discover is, number one, the stamp, we have to buy it. GRA is the policy implementator of this tax. I don't think that, we should be the one to buy the tax, the stamp, because it's a stamp that, you have to put on your bottle. If I was told, I'm producing this bottle, let's say 6,000. I am going to buy 6,000 stamps and put it on each bottle. Now, how do you want me to put these stamps on this bottle? So meaning that, I have to hire an extra person to be stamping every single bottle. That's one constraint. So extra cost for me as a manufacturer. So we are not dealing here about, the fact that, the tax issue as a policy. We are just saying that, the implementation part, there's supposed to be a proper consultation. So I go fast forward. Let's say now we said, how much is the stamp cost? Despite, having an extra person, stamping for me. GRA is telling us it will cost you 90 butut. 90 butut, we discover again that, this 90 butut is not even a fixed 90 butut. It can fluctuate. It can vary because, the contract apparently with the consultant or whoever is providing the sticker, you know, a company called SICPA, the contract is actually, you know, pegged at the euro. So meaning that, you know, if the euro keep fluctuating, you know, the 90 butut will be now fluctuating again, you know, from 90 butut to $1, say, and etc. Another cost again, you know, to the manufacturer. Number three, they're saying that, you know, okay, in case, you know, you don't want to employ a particular person to be sticking the stamp, it will take time, you can invest in a machine. So why will I invest in a machine? Why I've already invested in my factory and already, you know, a plant to produce, another cost again. So this cost also will be shifted back to the consumer.
Driving inflation.
They're driving inflation. So that is what we are saying there. So it's not a matter of, you know, the tax here. It's the matter of, you know, how it's going to be implemented. So probably, you know, we give a proper consultation with the manufacturers. Again, you know, to prevent this driving of, you know, hindering, you know, our operation. So this is what we are saying.
I'll interject that. But first, before I move to Mr. Jallow, it's very unfortunate that this conversation is getting intense, and I've just been informed that I am running out of time. This is I have never been sad like I am seated right now. So I don't know what to say, but we will find a solution to that. But do you agree with him, at least partially, that tax, as it may be a constraint, it may not be the major constraint, because he has given us a rundown in terms of the sub-region.
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with him partially that it seems that the tax structure in Gambia is even lower than compared in the sub-region?
No, I don't disagree. I disagree on that.
You disagree? Yes. Okay, it's okay, it's fine. So, Mr. Jallow, please help us. We have a little bit time left, and, you know, we will find a way to get you back, guys back here, so that we extend this, because I feel like we just started. So tell us the implementation aspect that they are really worried about or confused about in a very summarized way.
Thank you very much. I just want to correct a few things that he highlighted. I was part of the team that understudied this implementation in Uganda. And this is not a complex project. It's just an issue, and the price of the sticker is in the cents. It's less than even 90 bututs. And even if you were to buy...
We've been told it's 90 bututs.
Yeah, okay, let's assume it's 90 bututs. Yes. And remember, excise tax is a consumption tax. It's not a manufacturer or a producer tax. So it's not on you. That's why the excise is applicable at ex-factory price. Yes. So it's paid by the consumer. It's not paid by you. Even though...
We agree on that. But
yeah,
again,
even though...
the accumulation of the cost behind...
No, but
let's give him time.
But the cost
will be paid by the consumer. That's why I want to just...
Yeah, but let's give him time. Let's give him time. We are running out.
We did adequate simulation to determine the cost. And we determined it in such a way that it would not have any, one, inflationary price, two, it does not result to a change in the price level. That's why it was set at a very low level in terms of determination. And the other thing is that the machines you might want to buy to even do this thing, there is, in the tax law, capital equipments can be imported at free rate of duty. The law already allows you to do that. If you want to import capital equipments, you can request, and then your request would be studied. If it meets the standard requirement for it to pass that test, you would have this thing at zero cost of taxes. And that's good for you.
But I'm still going to buy it.
You are going to buy it, yeah, sure.
From my pocket.
But remember, it adds into your assets. So there is no such thing like assets at no cost. There's no such thing like that.
Yeah, but that asset, you know, is not my making. It's not my wish to have that asset. But now let's... Because it's serving, you know, the interests of, you know, the GRA, not me.
Now I'll put it this way. Okay. Let's assume that the deployment of the digital tax stamp increases your market share because it has kicked out all the smuggled, it has kicked out all the counterfeit. What are you going to say about that?
So
is that not the cost of the machine you are trying to run away from?
So
a lot of people have, you know, unfair market share because they are competing with people who have not been paying the right.
I am forced to interject and cut the conversation, and this is very, very unfortunate on my side and for both the gentlemen, because I feel like all the things that we need to discuss have not been discussed. But we will, after this show, we will find a way to bring us back, and then we continue on this. As you can see, the conversation was really interesting, and we will do our best to bring this gentleman back in the studio until we come your way next week. This is Gcci Business Matters, and I am Malik M. Jallo. Thank you.
This program was funded by the European Union.